who will inherit this? You know, the Catholic Church would say that Peter inherited it, and that from Peter on down, it's been passed from pope to pope to pope. The people in that day were thinking that perhaps James would be the heir, because James was half brother of Jesus, as we say. James, you know, at least by the Protestant tradition, James was a blood relative of Jesus. And so it was thought that perhaps he would take on the mantle of leadership. Well, that was not to be. He was killed very shortly after that, shortly after writing this letter. Paul went on to be a leader, but so did Peter, and so did John. These three led the church, and they led the church in very different directions, and now we're left looking back on it and wondering, well, that worked out differently than we expected it to in every way. In every way, there is no physical heir to the church, and there is no single direction for the church. The only direction for the church is decided by our cornerstone, by our guiding star, and that would be Jesus Christ. We have the teachings of Jesus Christ, and we all take them in different directions. Some people take it down a spiritual path. Some people take it to a path of physical healing. Some people take it to an ethical end, and it's about how we behave. And some people take it to a faith and to a faith not works end, such that it's about understanding our self-worth in the eyes of God, and therefore the worth of everyone around us. All of these are good directions. There's nothing wrong with any of these directions. They're not in error. Jesus was that rich. His teachings do go in all of those directions, so there's nothing wrong with that. But here is James. James tended to take a very practical view of the faith in Jesus Christ. James is the book that a lot of the Alcoholics Anonymous and other recovery literature has been taken from. Very early, before it was ever called AA, there was a group called the James Gang, or the James Group, and the James Club was about living up to the principles stated in James. And of course, their whole point was to stop drinking. It was an offshoot of the Oxford group. All of this merged in and became Alcoholics Anonymous. You all know the story of that. James is a very central text to that. And so when James comes through here, he's talking about all manner of things, how to act, how to treat each other, how to respect other persons, that sort of thing. And here he comes, are any among you suffering? Well, they should pray. Are any cheerful? They should sing songs of praise. Or any sick? They should call for the elders. You have to remember that there was not necessarily a doctor in every village. Not necessarily anyone that understood the healing arts. The elders of the church were those who were charged with caring for the sick, and caring for the church, and caring for the suffering. They were the ones, they were the storehouse of knowledge, such as it was in the village. And so if you were sick, you'd call on the elders, and if there was any medicine that would do you any good, they probably knew about it, and they probably had it. And if there wasn't, then you did have a prayer, because they would come and pray for you and anoint you. And there would be a healing in many cases. I'm sure that most of you, probably everyone here, has been healed, has been sick despite everything that medicine could do, and then healed despite every failure of medicine, because the elders came and prayed for you, because somebody in the church, a person of faith, some righteous person came and prayed for you. So, what is James saying here? James is saying, live for God. Live for Jesus Christ. Serve the church in whatever state you find yourself. What is your state? Are you suffering? Then praying. That's what you're supposed to do. You're suffering? Pray. Pray for healing. Pray for guidance. Pray for others. Pray fervently. Pray without ceasing. Because if you are suffering, then you are that one that really needs to be in the presence of God. Not for our sake, not for punishment or correction, but for healing. Because that's where comfort is. The one who is suffering should pray. Are any cheerful? They should sing songs of praise. There's all kinds of things we can do with our cheerfulness. We can go wild. We can make jokes. We can pick on other people. We can get flippant about it. But what good can you do the church with your cheerfulness? What can your cheerfulness do for the church? Well, there are many things. There are greeters. There are writers. There are singers. Particularly in that day, there were singers. What can you do for the good of the body of Christ if you're cheerful? If you're cheerful, then you've got a song on your heart. You might as well have a song on your lips. You might as well sing to the glory of God. See, he's saying, whatever state you find yourself in, is your state suffering? Then you're a prayer. For this season, this time of your life, Praying. That's what you're assigned to do. Are you cheerful? Are you happy? Are you flippant? Are you giggly? Singing. That's your job. Good job for you. Because we need cheerful people to sing. We need to sing songs of praise. So, sick. Are you sick? Well, you might think that you can do nothing if you're sick. But you can do something. Even if you're sick. You can call the church. Call on the church. You know, there are people that, well, where you been? Well, I've been in the hospital for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and you didn't even tell us. Well, I didn't want to trouble anybody. I didn't want to trouble anybody. We have a situation in the church now where Richard, forgive me for doing this. We have a cousin of Ann Friesman who thought that the best thing he could do for his family was to say, I don't want a funeral service. I don't want a memorial. I don't want anyone weeping over me. Well, he can get, 2 out of 3. Ain't bad, but we're going to weep over him. His loved ones lost him. They're mourning. If you're mourning, you should have a memorial service. For several reasons. It's healing for you. And secondarily, there are people in the church that want to share the love of God. They want to be helpful. They want to be a comfort. They want to be healing. This rallying around, there's something that doesn't close. There's a wound that doesn't heal necessarily, or doesn't heal as quickly or as well if there's not a memorial service. By the same token, if you're sick, I know that seems like a strange comparison, but it's the same token. You're sick and you're in the hospital, or you're suffering in some other way. Do you know that how can you serve the church? Well, you can let them pray for you. You can tell them that you're sick or in the rehab or whatever, and you can invite them to come see you, to come pray for you. Let the church do what the church does. It's a blessing to the church. It's not trouble. Oh, well, I didn't want to be any trouble. I'll tell you what's trouble. Trouble is you're missing and we don't know what. Trouble is you're not here and we think you're mad at us. That's trouble. That you're sick, well, that's trouble for you. It's not trouble for us. We want to pray for you. We want to pray for God's healing. We want to anoint you with oil. And the elders need the work. The elders need to be getting together. They need to be practicing the faith. Practicing the faith is to actually do things that are for the good of the community. One of those is to pray for the sick, to anoint them with oil, and to pray for their healing. So if you're sick and you're involved in a church, then let the church share in that. It's not selfish and it's not trouble. It's helpful to the church. That's what you can do. If you can't even lift your head out of bed, you can still serve the church by saying, I am ill, please pray for me. Or call upon them, I am ill, would you please come see me in the hospital? You bring me communion and give me a prayer. If that's your thing, it's good for you. It's good for the church. The prayer of faith will save the sick, and the Lord will raise them up. And if anyone who has committed sins will be forgiven. That's a great thing. Anyone who has committed sins will be forgiven. Oh, they don't deserve a prayer. Well, they haven't come in. They don't go to this church anyway. They're not good people. Well, they deserved it. They asked for it. They made themselves sick. No, don't even go there. Because sins will be forgiven. Sins will be forgiven by the prayer of the righteous person. The prayer of the righteous is powerful and effective. That's something to remember. For 2 reasons. One is that we should be motivated to be righteous. Righteous, right living. Righteous, doing the right thing. Righteous is honest. Righteous is anything that you say is right with God or right with your fellow man. That's what righteousness is. So the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Power. Let me talk about power for just a minute. I just had a class. My last class in my certificate program for pastoral ministry at Lexington Theological Seminary. And it was on power. And oddly enough, it was about community organizing. And it was studying community organizers, which some people have heard the conservative pundits saying, oh no, well, what was Obama? He was a community organizer. You know what community organizers do? They organize churches. They get churches together and they say, what does your faith tell you we should do about? And then they look into the community and they say, well, for instance, this homeless. What does your faith say we should do about homelessness? Well, my faith says that there should be more affordable housing. My faith says that those abandoned buildings over there are going to waste, and if they would let us fix them up, or if they would let us raise money and fix them up, then persons would have somewhere to live. All right, so what do we need to do about that? Well, we need some people. We get together, this church and this church. You got 20 people here, 50 people here, 100 people here. It all adds up. Next thing you know, you got a room full of people, and that room full of people are all church members. They're people of faith. And why are they gathered? Because they want to do something good for somebody in the name of God. They want to build a hospital. They want to put an end to injustice and unfairness. They want to provide food or affordable housing. They want to change unjust laws. That's what that organizing is all about. It's about churches working with churches. And so the point was made that we tend in church to think that power is a bad thing. Power is neutral. Power is like money. Power corrupts. They say that, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Let me tell you something. Powerlessness also corrupts. Can corrupt. And how does that go? Well, I need you to help me with this. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not my job. Well, I need somebody to help me figure this out. Well, yeah, but I'm too weak. I'm not the right person for that. But I need for you to do this. Well, I don't have enough faith to do that. That's just not my calling. It's not what I am called to do. You see where that goes? Is that we look at ourselves as powerless and we think that there's something holy about that. It's a good thing to be powerless. Not a good thing to be powerless. Jesus was described as meek. Come to me, all of you who are burdened and heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. You know what that meek, the word meek means? Bridled. It means bridled. It doesn't mean weak. Doesn't mean incapable. It means bridled. It means that you have control over yourself. You're meek in the sense that you're not lording your power. Meek is not powerless. Meek is powerful under control, like a horse, like a camel, like a beast of burden, like a machine that's in control. When Jesus said, I am meek and lowly, meek and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Jesus was not saying, I'm weak and I'm a pushover. Jesus was saying, I'm in control. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt anybody. My power will be used only for your good. I'm not going to run over anybody. I'm not going to lose control here. That's what he was saying. That's who the meek are. And that's what we need to be. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Now, if you're doing it for your own boastfulness, then that's not righteousness anyway. Pride is not righteous. Humility is righteous. So it's an interesting thing. You cannot have the power and effectiveness of righteousness and use it for your own good. Else you're not righteous and you don't have the power. That's pretty nice setup, right? But if you're one of those people that you just want to do what God wants to do, God, I can. When I'm driving to a memorial service or to a hospital or something, usually speaking, I'm praying out loud to God. And when I'm praying, it's God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a clue. I'm completely incapable and unprepared for this. If you don't show up, then nothing good's going to happen here. And so often, God will show up under those circumstances. God will show up under those circumstances. If I go into it and say, y'all don't worry, I got this covered. I know how to do this. I've done this before. Don't try this at home. I can do it. I'll do the praying. I'll do the anointing. That ain't going to do anybody any good because there's no righteousness in that. That's only pride. James, one of the most practical books in the Bible. And yet, to me, there's not a difference between the spiritual and the physical. There's not a difference between the earthly and the religious. There's not a difference. Because if you love people, you better be loving them practically. You better be loving them actually. It does no good. James himself had this thing. He says, what good does it do? Where is it? Boy, I wish I could find this in a hurry. Where he says, what good does it do if you pray? If you say to your brother or sister, go, be warned, bless you, brother. And you don't actually feed them? That's useless. That's useless. What's the more spiritual? The person that prays for the hungry to be fed, or the person that gives them a sandwich? That's more spiritual. More spiritual. More closer to God. Jesus said, you give them something to eat. You give them something to eat. Well, Lord, we need to teach these people to go take care of themselves. We need to send them off somewhere and tell them to go find themselves some food, because there's no food here. And Jesus said, you feed them. Well, Lord, we don't have enough food. Well, all right, then we take care of that. He splits the loaves and fishes. Feeds 5,000 people. But the point of that, and the point of James, is that James saw Jesus' way of life. And we all want to sway on a cracker and hold our hands up and get all kind of spiritual and chanting. And there's a lot of group hypnotism that goes in churches sometimes. And that is not spiritual. That may be fun. Worship in spirit and in truth. James is also the one that said, true religion and undefiled is this: to visit widows and orphans in their distress, and to keep yourself unpolluted from the world. What's real religion? What's actual spirituality? Really helping those in need and really keeping yourself away from sin. That's spirituality. That's spirituality. And all the other stuff is not going to do you any good. So, what I get out of these verses is that James is saying, no matter if you are suffering, you can suffer in God. You can suffer for the Lord. You can use that suffering to serve God. If you're happy, you can sing praises and sing to the church, and you can use that happiness to serve the Lord. Are you sick? You can call forth the church and let the church do what the church does, and in doing so, you will be serving the Lord even in your sickness. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, whatever state you are in, may you find the strength to use it to the glory of God.